Have you ever wondered if belief in a higher power is just hardwired into us? Or is it something we learn? Well, today we're going to dive deep into that question, connecting faith, the human mind, and, believe it or not, the fundamental laws of the universe.
Okay, let's start with a little thought experiment. I want you to picture a child raised in total isolation. No parents, no society, no language. They've never heard a story, never been taught a single thing by another person. Just completely alone in nature.
So, here's the big question. With absolutely no cultural input, no one to teach them, no holy books, would that child, on their own, grow up and develop a belief in God?
We can call this the Mowgli question, and it really gets to the heart of a huge debate. Is the idea of God something we're born with, an innate part of being human, or is it purely a learned concept, something that's impossible to come up with without culture and language? You basically got two competing theories here. On one side, you have the blank slate idea. It says, God is purely a social construct. You need language, stories, and culture to even form the concept. No culture, no God. Simple. But then you have the God instinct theory, which comes from evolutionary psychology. It suggests that, yeah, the child wouldn't know the word God, but the concept would still bubble up. Why? Because we humans are wired to see agency everywhere. You know, that rustle in the grass? Our brains are built to assume it's a tiger, not just the wind. It's a survival instinct. And that tendency could lead our isolated child to see the storm or the sun as powerful, conscious thing. And you know, this is not a new question. People have been wrestling with this for centuries. Way back in the 12th century, a philosopher named Ibn Tufayl wrote a whole novel about it. And his conclusion? He argued that a child raised in isolation would, just by using reason and observing the world around them, figure out that there must be a single creator.
Okay, so for a minute, let's just sidestep the whole if question. Let's shift our focus and ask something else. What is the purpose of believing in God? What does it actually do for us psychologically?
Well, one way to look at it is to think of God as a kind of universal therapist. When we're completely crushed by sadness or fear, belief gives us a way to offload that pain. And this isn't just a comforting thought. It's a powerful coping mechanism that has real biological effects. Feeling like someone is listening can literally lower your stress hormones and boost chemicals tied to hope. It's a genuine psychological survival tool.
So this hope, it creates this tangible force, right? A kind of positive energy that fights back against despair. But what if that feeling inside us is just a small reflection of something much, much bigger? What if the battle between hope and despair inside our own heads actually mirrors a fundamental battle in the universe itself? And this is where things get really interesting. We're going to connect that internal, psychological, positive energy to a fundamental law of physics. This is the idea of cosmic symmetry. It all starts with a concept from physics called entropy. You might have heard of it. It's the second law of thermodynamics. And what it basically says is that everything in the universe, if you leave it alone, naturally moves from order to disorder. Things break down, they decay, they fall apart into chaos. It's just a rule of the universe. But look around. Despite that universal rule of chaos, the world is filled with the most incredible order. Life itself is basically one long fight against things falling apart. I mean, think about the perfect, intricate symmetry of a single snowflake, or the mathematical precision in the petals of a flower, or the spiral of an entire galaxy. These are all stunning examples of order and structure. So the argument here is that the positive energy we feel, that push towards hope, is our own little reflection of this giant cosmic force for order and symmetry that's constantly pushing back against chaos. Now, if that sounds like a bit of a stretch, get this. It's an idea that even resonated with someone like Albert Einstein. He famously said he believed in Spinoza's God, not some guy in the sky, but a God that reveals itself in the lawful harmony of the world. He even had a name for the feeling of awe he got when looking at the universe's patterns, a cosmic religious feeling. So if this God is really just an abstract force of cosmic order, how do we humans even begin to relate to it? Well, this leads to a really powerful analogy, thinking of religion as a user interface. Think about it like your computer or your phone. Underneath it all, it's running on incredibly complex code, right? But you don't interact with the raw code. You tap on friendly little icons on a screen. The universe works on its own complex code too. Forces like gravity and thermodynamics. It's pretty hard to have a personal relationship with thermodynamics. So over thousands of years, humanity created user-friendly interfaces, religions. They give us the icons, the faces, the names, the stories that let us interact with that invisible code.
So, for example, the raw underlying reality of solar energy gets an interface we call Apollo or Soria. That huge, profound mystery of creation itself gets a name and a face, like Brahma or Yahweh. And that invisible, organizing force of natural harmony that pushes back against chaos, that gets the interface we often just call God. And this brings us right back to our Mowgli question. It solves the paradox. Our isolated child would never learn the name God. They wouldn't know the interface, the icon, but they would experience its reality every single day, in the symmetry of a leaf, in the patterns of the stars, in the rhythm of the seasons. They'd understand the underlying code, even without ever seeing the icon on the screen.
But the story doesn't quite end there, because what if the answer isn't just out there in the stars? What if it's also found by turning our gaze inward? This brings us to our last big idea, the God within.
There's this incredible Sufi proverb that says, "He who knows himself knows his Lord." And the idea here is just profound. It suggests that maybe the ultimate search isn't outward, into the cosmos, but inward, into the depths of our own consciousness. The logic here is really beautiful and simple. If the whole universe is this giant ocean of cosmic energy, then each one of us is like a single drop from that ocean. And if you want to understand the nature of the ocean, you don't have to travel across all of it. You just need to deeply, truly analyze the drop, which is you. The temple, in this view, is your own mind.
But maybe intense self-reflection isn't your thing. Well, there's another path inward. This one suggests that you can experience that same divine connection by looking not at yourself, but at another person. The idea is that when love for another being is so pure, so total, it actually transforms into a form of worship. A perfect example of this is the story of Meera, a poet and saint from the 16th century. Society told her she had to follow all these strict religious rules, but she kind of rejected the rules and held on to the essence. For her, the divine, Krishna, wasn't some distant formal god. He was her beloved. And through her incredible, passionate love, which she expressed in poetry and dance, she didn't just worship the divine, she actually merged with it. She became a living, breathing part of that cosmic harmony. So when you put it all together, we've ended up with 3 different paths that all seem to lead to the same essential place. You can look outward at the universe and its physical laws and see symmetry. You can look inward through self-knowledge and find truth. Or you can look toward another being with pure devotion and experience divine love.
Which leaves us with one last big thought. What if God isn't really a noun, not a person, place, or thing that you have to go out and find? What if it's more like a verb, a state of being that you feel, an experience you can find in the awe of the cosmos, in the stillness of self-knowledge, and in the depths of profound love?